In this video, which is in no way sponsored by Domino's Pizza, we make a Domino's Pizza Shadowbox to remember fast food adventures of yesteryear. What's so special about this sign? It has a high-flying, disastrous history. I delivered pizzas for Domino's in my college years, and we had car toppers like this, three-sided signs that were held to the top of the car with a combination of suction cups and straps. But our signs were less streamlined. Think of this in an old version made of all aluminum. That was what we had. Back in 1985 in Prattville, Alabama, one of our drivers was returning from a delivery on the north side of town. He was headed south on Highway 31 when the straps that held down the front of his giant triangular sign failed. The sign tipped back, caught air, and flew off the top of his car, leaving the suction cups still stuck to the roof of his car. From what we heard later, the sign made a spectacular climb, spin, and crash behind his car and converted itself into lots of pieces, destroying itself completely. The driver scooped up the pieces of the sign, brought it back to the store and said, well, sorry, wrecked the sign, and he took another pizza, went on the delivery. The sign was thrown in the dumpster because there was no repairing that. It was in too many pieces. I was on duty that night wearing this hat, and I went out during my break and I picked up these. The two pieces of the sign that survived. I've had them for years and used them for many different things. But we're going to use these as our shadow box, the famous flying Domino's sign of Prattville, Alabama. But this isn't our first rodeo. We actually built the shadow box out of a piece of the Stargate Atlantis stage. A friend got a piece of the stairs that made up the bridge of Stargate Atlantis. You see it's right here somewhere in this picture. I don't know which one it is. We'll say this one. Or maybe this one. Truth is, we really don't know, but it's in this picture somewhere. Whichever stair it was, he dropped it by the house and we put it in the garage to work on it. We sanded it down and got a bunch of grime and epoxy off of it, and then built a wooden box to hide some LEDs inside. There's the LEDs there. These are color changing LEDs that are controlled by a remote control device. Then we masked off the stair piece with its plexiglass backing, painted it an antique brown color, and peeled it off. And now it lives in the media room of a suburban home somewhere in Florida. Doesn't it look great? There's a lot of really cool stuff in here, a lot of comic book stuff and everything else. I'm not going to show you all that because it's not my house. In fact, the people who live here, they're not even here. This thing has made them so popular that they're out among all their friends and things because the neighbors think they're so cool because they have this shadow box. That's why you need one. It'll make you cool. Back to the Domino's shadow box, the first thing to do is to measure it. It's 1 by 2 feet. We cut 4 pieces of pine to make a simple frame that would conceal the LEDs and a backer that would be used to reflect the light as well as hang the shadow box to the wall. All the pieces cut. The saw blade was set for a 1/4 inch depth. We're going to cut channels in this wood for the back and for the blue sign. This is how you do things without a dado. You can do it with an 1/8 inch saw blade. 2 channels are cut in each board, one for the backer and one for the blue front. See, we've got the 2 channels there, but they're not wide enough. So the fence on the saw is slightly adjusted, and I run them through again to make the channels wider. And this is how you can make a shadow box without having an expensive dado blade. You just move your fence a little bit and you can get as wide of a cut as you want, moving it as often as you need to make the cut as wide as it needs to be for what you're going to insert. And then I cut the backer board from some scrap 1/4 inch plywood, measured to be exactly the same size as the blue Domino signs. With all the parts cut, I fit everything together, and amazingly, it fit the first time. I know, I'm surprised too. I have no idea what went wrong. This frame will be held together by screws so I can disassemble it if I ever need to change it or whatever, and so we're going to use 3 drills here. One drill is used to drill the pilot hole for the screw, the second drill is used to countersink the hole, and the third drill is used to screw the screw in. Could I have used one drill and switched the bits to do it? Yes, but with the screws I'm putting in, that would have meant 24 changes of the bit. And I don't want to change bits that often, so multiple drills it is. If you don't have multiple drills, this is a perfect excuse to use to buy more. It makes things so much easier. With the screws holding everything together, none of the wood's going to move, so I go ahead and sand it now, taking care not to hit the plexiglass sign, we don't want to scratch it up. But we do want to make sure the box is all sanded and ready for paint, because painting all of this stuff is our next step. The backer board is painted silver to better reflect the LED light. And speaking of LED lights, this hole is for the wire that will get power to those LEDs. When you use a table saw to cut slots like we did, you end up with holes on the end. This would matter if we were staining this, but we're not, we're painting it, so putty is fine, it'll seal the holes up, the light won't come out, and it'll look like a solid piece of wood. These 35-year-old signs are covered with paint overspray and other grime they've picked up over the years, so I use toothpaste to polish them down. Yes, you heard that right, toothpaste. It's a mild abrasive and you have tons of it in your house right now. It's the cheapest polish we own, and so we used it.
Look at this. The toothpaste totally worked, polished it nice and clean. And now the shop smells minty fresh.
With the backer board and the blue domino sign removed, I used one of the screws to put a wire on that will be used to hang the sign in the paint booth. We live in a swamp, so painting things indoors is a must-do, unless you want insects on everything. The paint booth folds out from the wall and has a tray on the bottom to hold subjects while you're painting them, or you can hang those things from a bar across the top, which I'm doing here. Either way, it's vented to the outside through that panel to your right, which allows us to paint inside where there are no insects while having no fumes inside the shop. It really is a great setup, and when we're done, it folds up against the wall like it was never there. This panel is being painted red to match the Domino's red, white, and blue color scheme. Both the silver and red colors we're using are left over from other projects. You can see where we store it there on the left.
The next day,
a 2-foot length of white LEDs is cut from the spool. These LEDs are pretty bright, and it's not going to take that many to illuminate this box. I'm putting the strip on the bottom of the box. Now I understand this is going to light the bottom of the sign a little more than the top. The silver backer board will help us with that. But I'm actually doing this on purpose, because the aluminum sign boxes that we carried on top of our cars back in the 80s were lit from the bottom with incandescent 12-volt lights that we plugged into our cigarette lighters in the car. So there was more light on the bottom of the sign than the top of the sign when we had them in service. I'm simply duplicating that look. You see, I'm using that hole we drilled here to put the power cord for the LEDs through. This is actually a jack that will plug into the transformer that will give it 12 volts of power for the LEDs. So it's all set, and that wire isn't going to get in our way. A little epoxy is used to hold that jack in the hole so it won't come out. And then I put a little epoxy on each end of the LED strip just to hold it down. It's got an adhesive backing, but this is just a little extra insurance that it'll stay in place. We would normally use a multicolor LED strip for this so the box can change color, but since we have a blue insert, white LEDs are all that's required, and a basic white light strip was all that was needed. And as you can see in this all-up test, that 2-foot long strip of LEDs is wicked bright and more than enough light for what we need to illuminate this 35-year-old sign. In fact, it's brighter now than it ever was back in the day. Everything's done, so it's time to assemble. The backer board has a French cleat on it so we can hang it anywhere we want, and it slides right in. The blue sign slides into its slots on the front. Look at that fit. And then the cap is put back on, and it fits perfectly just like it did the first time. I put the screws back in, and we have a completed Domino's Pizza Shadowbox. The only shortcoming is that it doesn't fly like it did in 1985. And it lights up great. Those LEDs really do the job, and it's lit from the bottom just like the original was.
So that's the Domino's Pizza Shadowbox, which is in no way sponsored by Domino's. In fact, I don't even think they use this anymore. I left it partially damaged, partially scuffed up from that fateful night, 1985, when it crashed on the highway, to remind me of that and how much fun it was to talk to that driver when he came back just horrified that he destroyed the sign. But it's hanging here in the shop. It's on the French cleat. It can go anywhere we want. This is the back wall of the shop, rarely seen because there's not much here, but may leave it here, may hang it in the other garage so that it'll light up when the cars come home, whatever. It's just a great little thing. And I actually have 2 of these, as you saw earlier in the video, so I might make a second one and give it to one of the old guys I used to work with who was also on duty that night, just to remember the craziness that we went through. Keep stuff like this from your history and put it up around your house. Don't just go buy a painting or something. Get something that's about you so that it'll give you a chuckle every time you see it. Because this was a really fun nutso event from a long time ago. But anyway, that's what we do. Thank you so much to our patrons. Love you guys. You help us finance stuff like this. It may not seem like much, but you help us build these great memories. Like the video, share the video, binge the other videos, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell down there so that you'll get notifications whenever we put new stuff up, new stuff every Friday, and occasionally additional videos just because. But that's it, and we'll see you next time. Here, let me light it up for you.